Rick Horrow keeping score, always the top guys in the industry, and some people are a step ahead of the curve, and Chris Lencheski is somebody that's a step ahead of the curve. He cut his teeth way before this, but then he did Global Spectrum and Spectacor and the kind of naming rights, Front Row Communications, that world, and Comcast Spectacor, a major leader. Kudos to Eddie Snyder for creating such an amazing entity. I'm sure Chris will talk about it. But IRG Sports and Entertainment, front and center in entrepreneurialism. And the bottom line is, without further ado, we'll just bring in Chris Lencheski to talk about some of his processes and where he's going with things. How's that for an intro?
That's fantastic. I don't think I deserve it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So, Chris Lencheski, CEO, IRG Sports Entertainment. And part of the process is the merger of sports and entertainment, and obviously the company is cutting edge in that area. Chris, tell us a little bit about the company and what you do with it.
Well, what do you do, right? Vice Chairman, CEO of the holding company. We own multiple tracks at various levels. Some of our tracks capable of holding NASCAR events, IndyCar events, drag racing events. We charter and sanction over 100 tracks throughout North America. We're the largest drag racing sanctioning body globally in the world, uniquely second in the U.S. to the NHRA, which does a great job, but the largest global footprint, largest sportsman amateur footprint, and our drag bike league, the IDBL, is also the largest drag bike league. We organize and manage over 1,000 events in a calendar year. So everything from the top level, major league professional motorsports, right down to the grassroots level, the mom and pop type teams. It's kind of a unique situation to sit in. It is at the nexus between both our television linear and traditional digital, which is now fast approaching in some of our what they call no prep or fast and furious type classes.
So you obviously cut your teeth at the foot of the Flyers, the Comcast folks. Big diversity, great qualifications. You also had the ability to do anything you really wanted. The motorsports world is growing. When you think about your entity, and it's Palm Beach International Raceway, obviously Memphis, Maryland, Cordova, Hot Rod, that attracted you to that business pretty significantly. It sounds like it's growing very well. Tell me kind of why you chose to get into this area. How fast it's growing. What attracted you to it?
Well, I'll tell you, Rick, in a lot of ways it was a return to the roots. I mean, yes, I got the good fortune and blessing to work at the foot of someone that I admire that recently passed, and Mr. Snyder, who really built the industry of managed stadiums and commercial rights and naming rights, et cetera. Longtime Flyer owner and really the foreseer of what would be regional sports networks. But prior to even coming to Comcast, I had built fortunate to build a pretty significant motorsports agency. And when TPG, which is the fourth largest investment fund in the world, called me about their investment in IRG, I said, yeah, let's look at this. Why drag racing? Drag racing uniquely is positioned between all the racing in the world for the millennials and Generation Z. Jeff Shell, who's chairman of Universal Studios, will tell you that they sold $1.3 billion worth of movie tickets for Fast and Furious 7, which is predominantly a drag racing movie with cars and girls, right? Well, that's really what this is in real life. This is drag racing with cars and girls. But the girls are racing just as much as the guys are. So it's the first most gender-neutral form of global motorsports in the world. And in our case, where we are the dominant player on the sportsman and the amateur side, and now matching up a pro level around the world, it makes for an interesting total value opportunity for the sponsors and the television partners. So what attracted to me was the changing demographics within auto racing. We have a heavy bent of Latino and Latina, strong African-American strategy, and you see it in the crowds.
See it in the crowds, but you also see it on television, I guess, and you're trying to put together a TV and digital package for all of this, hot rod, drag bike, all of the issues. How's it going, and what's the future?
Well, I'll tell you, we brought over Neil Pilson, who I know you're very familiar with, former president of CBS Sports and the architect behind the first $1 billion NASCAR television package. And we went out to an RFP about 3 months ago, and we were sitting between 2, maybe 2.5 networks, 2.5 being my version of what digital will or won't become. So far, the early returns are good. We expect to be able to announce somewhere in June our network home, at least in the U.S., and we expect to distribute through, at this point, MP and Silva, I would imagine, somewhere between 90 to 100 countries. I was in Abu Dhabi and in Qatar recently in the last month to talk about their sanction agreements with a stopover meeting with Bernie Ecclestone to talk about why we're different than Formula One and where their path is going and where our path is going. Our racing is done and dusted, as they say, in 3 seconds. It's the ultimate racing for the ADHD crowd. With the younger group looking at these kinds of cars, like from Fast and Furious, and the manufacturers looking for those audiences in the dealerships. You know, I can put my race literally on an iPhone watch and watch it, and it's over in 4 seconds. And then the next one shows up, and that's over in 4 seconds, all going 300 miles an hour. So it's exciting, it's dramatic, and it's easy to watch, and I call it snackable motorsports. You know?
All of that's really important, but I find it interesting as a student, and again, for a Reuters international audience, a student of cricket, which takes 4 million days, and then the 20-something turns it into something that's a little more user-friendly. You have a event, as you just said, that's over in a millisecond. Is it too short, or is it just the right time for our ADD-oriented mobile phone audience?
Well, I'll tell you what, you hit it right on the head. Cricket was a model. Rugby sevens was a model. You know, cricket was a model in this sense. Cricket was taking too long. So was drag racing. Drag racing was populated by long days, 9, 10-hour event days. Our change in the IHRA specifically was to go to 8-car fields for the 2017 schedule, which shortens the field by 50% and cut down our time at the track to 3 hours. So now you're much more in line with the traditional sports-going audience in the U.S. But for the consumer at the track, because we only have 8 cars per class, and there's 5 classes, they're seeing the best quality racers do their thing, and we can tournament-style race them throughout a day or afternoon of racing.
Chris Lencheski, the guru of hot rod racing, among other things. Yeah, exactly.